Welcome to the Mark Hope Show. We are going to do the Walmart Suntan lotion saga part two. So, as we learned in part one, they sent me some suntan lotion I didn't order, and I found it. I mean, that was a God thing, I think, because it's like I had no idea how much they were charging people to deliver these things to their homes. And if you didn't see that, go back and look at the other video because, oh my God, I mean, I don't know who's affording this. I'm sure there's lots of people that are comfortably affording that, but it ain't in this house. But I got to the Walmart store and I walked over to customer service. Now, there was a line of 4 or 5 people. And like I said, I don't like being in the store because of my immunocompromised position. So I don't want to stay in there long. I was going to go in there and then go wait in the car while my wife was shopping like I normally do. And so kids walking by and said, "Hey, could you get me a manager? I'm going to stand at the end of the line." And then he said, "Okay." And he went and got the manager. And she showed up 5 minutes later. She said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." And I explained the whole thing to her. And she said, "Let me see do you have it on your app?" And I said, "Yes." And I can't find it. It's confusing. I never use it. But I mean, I got a screen capture of it and I showed it to her because when I had it up, I took a screen capture of everything. And she said, "Well, can we see it on your app?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I pulled up the app and she said, "Do you mind if I do your phone?" And I said, "Here, do, whatever." She's looking for it. She can't find it. And then I said, "Oh, there's the message I got that if you click on that, it'll show the delivery. It doesn't show it in the order history and it doesn't show it in any of the other things. But here's the notice that I got." And if you click on that, it'll show the return, but I already have the barcode of the return on this screen capture that I have. And she said, "Well, let's bring it up in the app." And she said, "Yeah, just show them this and they'll give you a refund." And I said, you know, I don't want to do that. I said, "This is my fault." And she immediately snapped back at me. And this is when just horrible attitude. And that's what the second part of this video is about, is just the horrid customer service and just the comfortableness of being mean to customers. And she said, "Well, it's not my fault." And I said, "Well, it's not your fault, but it's kind of your responsibility because you're a manager, front end coach, I guess is what they call them." And I said, "You've got that badge on that says Walmart. You're representing Walmart. Walmart caused this problem for me." And I said, "You're the manager, and I want you to take care of it." And she said, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "Ma'am, I want you to go open up one of those registers because there's 5 people, 3 registers, one person is working with this, and I don't want to stand in this line. I'm disabled, and my legs are aching, and I can't stand for a long amount of time. So I want you to go open that register and help me." "Well, I'm not going to do that, and that's it." And I said, "Okay." Devin, her name was Devin, and she um, was getting really snotty with me. I said, "Devin, can I speak with your manager?" And she said, "I'm the only manager. He's the manager." She said, "He is out of the store." And I said, there's no other manager between you and the store manager who's out of the store? Yep, that's it. I'm the only one. I said, you're the only manager in this whole Walmart. She said, yes. And I said, you and I both know that that's a lie. And she said, you can get in line and that's it. And then Devin walked off. And that was it. So I got back in line and waited till I got to the front of the line, and I showed the lady my return thing, and I gave her the lotion because, and I didn't get a picture of the lotion in the bag, but there was a delivery thing with the number on it in the Walmart bag that was on my porch. And this is the lotion outside of the bag. But this picture was because of a different reason. Um, but I said, well, I'd like to talk to a manager about this because I was treated poorly by the last person I talked to, and she claimed that she was the only manager, and I don't believe that. And she said, okay. And she's starting to get irritated. And she does the thing and calls the manager. And I said, is Devin the only manager that is on duty? Oh, no, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so she processes my refund. And this is the weird, events that happen because if you'll notice, this is what they charged me. $28.58. And then when I processed the refund, okay, for the suntan lotion that I didn't order, they make a refund for $26.50, 57 cents. And then when I get my refund from the place, it's $26.57. What's going on? You didn't give me my refund. And there's an answer to that, and it'll come up later. And I said, hey, let's get this manager up here. I said, because you know, I can't stand it. And at that point, I rested my hip on the counter there, and I'm kind of leaning up there to take the pressure off my legs. And in walks this young kid, kind of bulky and younger guy, and confident. And he says, "Get off that counter." And I said, "Well, sir, are you the manager?" "No, I'm relieving her for lunch or whatever." And I said, "Well, I'm disabled and I've been standing here waiting for a manager for 15 minutes. There's no chairs out here. Can I have that stool to sit on?" And there was a stool behind the counter. And he said nothing. He didn't acknowledge me after that. He didn't offer me the stool. He didn't tell me anything. He started talking to the girl, and she said, "Can you open that register?" Because I wasn't moving out of the way. I wanted to talk to a manager, and I knew if I stepped to the side and then it was business as usual, a manager would be, probably days away, and I didn't have that. And so I'm looking at her, and I am getting a side eye from Devin, and he's the one that's holding this bottle right here, as you could see, Devin. And I am approached by Kelly. And I have to say, Kelly is wonderful. And I start talking to her. She says, "Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't." I said, "I've been waiting here a long time." And she said, "Well, I'm sorry. We didn't really hear that. We were in the back doing unloading a truck." I said, "Well, I can understand that." I said, "But you've got really rude employees here, and if you're going to have this quality of employee, you need to be a little bit more responsive when they call for a manager because there's probably a problem." And at this point, Mr. Devin is just fuming and he's making a face at me. And I said, "Look at him. I mean, he is just out of hand. And if you weren't here, I mean, who knows what would happen?" And she said, "Well, let me look into the problem." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." I said, I want to talk to the store manager after it's all over anyways. But I said, not only did I not order this, not only have you made it really difficult for me to try and return it, I didn't get all my money. And this one that I was working with said, "I don't know what to tell you. I can only give you what's on the screen." And I said, "Well, you just, keep my money." Multi-million dollar Walmart company takes a senior citizen's $2 because they can and because they hide behind these layers and layers and layers of employees that don't have any authority to do anything. And when you call for a manager, he's not in. And the other managers, they don't want to help you. Until I got to Kelly. And she said, "Well, let me look into it." Well, we find out what the deal is. The $2 is because they don't refund tips from your bill. That was Pedro's tip. And Walmart normally doesn't refund that off your bill when you go in there and try to fight for your money after they screw you. And I said, "Thank you to Kelly." And I said, "Kelly, you are the one in this situation that's helped me. And I really appreciate it." And she was very nice. And, there was another manager that walked up behind me, a big guy. And I said, "Are you the store manager?" She said, "No, I'm a manager just like her. What do you need?" And I said, "I'm working with her." And he was a jewel too. So I said, "Kelly, can I get the store manager's business card?" And she said, "Oh, we don't have those." I said, "Well, can we write down the store manager's name, his full name and his phone number?" "Well, I can't give you that. I can only give you the his name and the store number." And I said, "Okay, that's." I said, "Can I have a piece of paper?" And I wrote down my name and my phone number. And I said, "When Tony gets involved with this, can you give him my phone number and tell him that I'm going to be contacting the local news agencies, and I am going to relate this story about abuse of a senior citizen in their store and see if it's something that the community thinks is a big deal or not." So, you know, I would like to talk to him. And if he won't call me, then, you know, he could talk to me when I'm in front of the store with a reporter from Channel 5 or, Channel 9 or whoever wants to cover the story. And, so it's better if he calls me. I'd rather not do that. But if nobody's going to contact me, then I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. And I'm going to say whatever I need to say to expose, I don't know what other word to say, but abuse, evil, whatever it is. But I'm going to say what I'm going to say until I get punched in the face. And then I'm going to say what I'm going to say with a black eye. But I'm not just going to go away like countless other seniors who have gone through this and just said, "Oh, forget it," you know. And Walmart already has a sketchy reputation with the public over this not paying their employees enough to where they don't have to be on public assistance. Now, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's large. And the corporate profits of Walmart are very high. And I don't know, maybe this is indicative of the fact that they should probably pay their employees a little bit more, so at least that they can get off public assistance at that level so that they're not so stressed out at work. Well, by the time I got home, and it was about an hour later, um, Tony called me and I had a discussion with him, and it was a continuation of, this isn't our fault. This order came out of the Rock Creek store or whatever. And I said, Tony, I don't care. I said, I didn't make this order. This is an online Walmart thing, and you're a manager of Walmart. And this is a problem. And I've already messaged the corporate office. I did that in line on my phone. But this is a two-part issue. I said, A, this is what happened to me with the online system, and we need to figure out why that happened and how that happened. But then when I got to your store, I was abused, and I told you exactly how I was abused by several different employees that work in your store. And I said, that's your responsibility, right? He said, yeah, well, I'll talk to him. And I said, well, Tony, I appreciate you saying that, but it doesn't make me feel confident. I said, I would like to talk to your boss. And because I told him, I said, look, I want an appointment, and I'm going to show up with a news crew, and we're going to talk about this with you on camera with the news. And he said, well, that's not going to happen. And I said, well, Tony, I said, you don't get to be in charge of what I do with my podcast, what I put on TikTok, or how I relate my personal stories. So, to say that I don't get to do that, I just wanted to include you in this so that we could all work together and say, hey, what do we need to do about this? Because I'm a senior citizen, but I'm a senior citizen with a voice. What about all these other senior citizens that are being abused by this system of, oh, I can't do that. I can't take care of that. I can only give you what's on the screen nonsense, and no manager, and they wait. Yeah, you got to wait 20, 30 minutes to talk to a manager. And a lot of us senior citizens can't stand that long. This is a bad look for Walmart. And let me tell you this, I love Walmart. And that's the Walmart I go to get all my prescriptions. That is the best pharmacy that I have ever been to, the highest customer service of any pharmacy that I've ever been to. And I don't know. It doesn't connect. But I am waiting to hear back from the news agencies. I'm waiting to hear back from Donna Lemons. She is supposed to be Tony's supervisor. She's over Oklahoma and Texas, North Texas, I guess. So there'll be a follow-up after I hear back from the people or not, but at least you know this story and what happened, and you need to, maybe if you have somebody that's fragile in your family and they're interacting with Walmart, you might want to go with them just to make sure and take lots of pictures about what's going on, because they want to just say, oh, let's stop talking about it. Don't worry about it. Here's $2 in cash. Go away. Well, you take $2 from 1,000 people and you give $2. You give $2 back to the old Karen guy that won't shut up. That's a pretty good profit. So uh, stay tuned.